Hey, it's Sahaj from the band Ra, and we're creating madness with Madness to Creation.
Awesome. And good evening, and welcome to the third installment of the Madness to Creation podcast. This is Maddie, and in this podcast we have Sahaj from the band Ra, and you might have heard Ra roughly about 17, 18 years ago with their iconic song, Do You Call My Name, which it seemed like you couldn't turn on the mainstream rock radio station for a period of time without hearing that song. And what I really appreciate about Ra is that they mix like hard rock music and they have like some Middle Eastern vibes to it, and yet they are willing to continue to evolve as a band. And recently they have released the music video and single for the song Intercorrupted. And basically what Sahaj said about this, according to the press release, is with everyone releasing songs about the state of the world in 2020, we felt that there was an opportunity to say something about the state of the mind. Divisiveness does not exist in a vacuum. Your cause mostly certainly results in effect, making it impossible to truly cast blame for things currently that we are all up in arms against. Your personal beliefs require an adversary or contrary position in order to germinate in the current world of social media and sensational news coverage. We are part of the global synopsis in this hive mind world. I believe there is little hope to evolve as a species if we don't redefine and accept our own role in creating the very things we abhor. We are intertwined. We are intercorrupted. And that quote that Sahaj had in the press release says a lot about the band, and that's what you're going to be learning about in this interview. We get into a kind of a deep philosophical discussion about how the song came to be, and not only that, but the role that social media takes. And I want to just kind of have this message to stop cyberbullying. Basically, if you are being cyberbullied, whether it's at the workplace or at school, or even within your own family or friend list, block them, and ask them to stop. And if they don't stop, then block them, unfriend them, unfollow them, do what you need to do. I feel so sorry for this generation today. Like back when we were in school, 20 years ago or so, we only got bullied at school. At least when we got to go home, we got away from the bullying. Like I remember like internet chat rooms were starting to come to be and stuff like that, but there wasn't like Facebook or even MySpace. And now kids can't get away from that. And this is for the youth of America. Like I said, ask them to stop, and if they continue to do so, block them. Tell a trusted adult, confront them. Get a group of friends to confront them, saying that cyberbullying is not okay. All right, and also another piece of advice I want to give you. Social media has so much to do with our mental health, and in today's political and social climate, if you don't like what they have to say, you can unfollow them. You can just scroll on by. You don't have to just sit there and comment on every single thing. You're not going to get anything accomplished in life if you just sit there and argue on Facebook or argue on Instagram or whatever. I tend to mess with Instagram more than the other social media because Instagram, you're just looking at pictures basically. And, just if you feel really heated, step away from the phone. And all that, all right? Just step away from it. On that note, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Sahaj of Ra. Please follow Ra on Facebook at Ra Official, and also follow them on Instagram at Ra Music Official, and also pick up the album Intercorrupted via Wake Up Music Rocks on March 19th, 2021. And I want to thank you again for listening. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to SoundCloud. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Madness to Creation, and follow us on Twitter at MTC Madness. And without further delay, here's my conversation with Sahaj of Ra.
For me as a producer, but also with the band stuff, and it's just been a lot of work, but I am super stoked on how everything is panning out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's talk about that. Like, in terms of you being a producer and in terms of you being a songwriter and stuff like that, what do you look for when you, like, whether you produce an album for your own band or for another band? We'll just start off the interview that way.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people probably think, that you would gravitate towards, whatever the most successful band is, that's sort of the one you're going to try and spend all your energy working with. Where, as for me, I certainly enjoy working with some of the bigger artists that I work with, but I really, really like when I believe in an artist, like when I feel emotionally connected to what someone's trying to say or what someone's trying to do. That's usually way more sort of motivating and exciting for me than just, this is a big artist with with big social media numbers, like there's so many. I mean, when somebody sends me a song and I genuinely like it, that's a big deal. It doesn't happen a lot. And sometimes it's an artist that we know, and sometimes it's an artist I've never heard of. And I really, as a producer, I just get so excited when something stirs sort of like that creative. And, I like the challenge of something that requires some effort. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, depending on the band and depending on what the artist's goals are, sometimes the goal is to find the most commercial version of whatever it is they're already doing, or sometimes it's really try and make a statement, try and actually do something new and really reach far. And sometimes it's both. And I guess those are sort of, those are the most challenging, but maybe the most satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, somebody that you have produced that just about knocked you off your chair when you first heard them.
I've been working with Dustin from Starset for, it's going on 8, 9, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a really interesting sort of relationship artistically, because I'm older than him, but he's not super young. So he has he understands the history of hard rock and sort of, he has the things that he likes and we have different things that we both like. But we tend to focus on different aspects of the same song. And what's really fun about that is that I can really be pushing for one thing and he will absolutely disagree wholeheartedly on that aspect, and yet he'll present something else that I'll just completely not be, I'll be like, this is terrible, this is not what we should do, and we'll have arguments, and yet somehow the end result is always better than what either one of us would have done on our own. So it's sort of like, it's really fun to have, someone who pushes back and sort of challenges me the way that Dustin does. And other artists that I work with, in varying degrees. But because I've been working with him so long and have so many songs that we've done together that are on his records, there's always that sort of closeness that sort of turns into, slight rivalries here and there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's so important to have somebody in your life that will challenge you to be your best and stuff like that. Would you, ever create whether it's, an EP or an album with them, let's say start a new project, or is that totally off the table?
Would I do a project just one-on-one with Dustin?
Yeah, to create an album or an EP or something like that.
He is a very, very, very focused, kind of calculated business guy when it comes to the music side. Like, obviously he has his artistic side, but he's very, very, I think, super smart at the way that he approaches not only Starset, but he does have like this little side project called Mannequin, and then he has this other, when he had the original band he was in called Downplay. All of those things sort of percolate underneath the surface. But he's very, very strategic in what he does. And, in what we do with Starset, it always feels very much like I squeeze in as much Sahaj as I can into a Dustin song, and then he sort of figures out the right balance to make sure that it's Starset and not anything else. And to answer your question, I don't know that there would be a project where we would both sort of be featured on it, unless it was, just me guesting on one of his songs or him guesting on one of Ra's songs.
Oh, for sure, man. And I was gonna say, like, I remember seeing you guys. Just kind of a personal story. I remember seeing you guys back when you opened for Seven Dust, back in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It was at an arena called the U.S. Cellular Center. And how have you grown from the days of "Do You Call My Name" to now, with this absolutely awesome single, Intercorrupted? I've been jamming out the single lately, and how have you grown as a songwriter from then to now?
So there's two sides of it. There is actually a side where I became more limited as a songwriter. Because one of the things that when you start writing for other people is you start to sort of throw away inefficient parts of the process. So the more I was writing and the more I was working with other artists, I sort of started to trim more of the fat out of my writing style, in the sense that there are certain things that you do that might be more indulgent than others. And what you're trying to do as a good songwriter is minimize the indulgent stuff and maximize the effective stuff. So when you do something that sort of reaches the audience, you want to make sure you maximize those moments more than the things that you do sort of to satisfy your own artistic needs. And I learned a lot since those days working with other artists, because you're always trying to, inject the most potent idea, not just your favorite idea. So through that, I would say, in a weird way, it's become more limiting. But also in a weird Zen way, it's also way more freeing, because once you do it enough, it's almost like if you play piano every day for 5 hours a day, even if you're not the greatest piano player in the world, you're going to get good at it at some point. If you just do it all the time, eventually the way you perceive it becomes sort of micro, in the sense that you see small changes as opposed to big changes. So now when I write songs, I see things in such small increments, but I see them as big movements. And I think that being able to understand what subtleties actually result in big sort of changes in a song and big differences in the way it emotionally feels or the way it connects viscerally, those are things that I think I'm way better at. And because I'm better at it, I think I can sort of do it with a little bit more ease and more freedom.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I was going to say, like, Intercorrupted, like I said, I love the video and I love the song. And to me, it fits for lack of a better term, the theme of 2020, so to speak. And, take us into that song and video, and, what messages were you trying to convey in that song?
Well, the song in itself, first of all, the word is a made-up word. So intercorrupted is not a real word. It's something I sort of created to solve two problems. One thing I've created it for is because in an algorithm-driven music industry, we are sort of we have like one arm tied behind our back because the name of the band is Ra. So if you search Ra on Google, everything in the universe comes up except us. And then if you go on Spotify and put in Ra, Rage Against the Machine, Rammstein, Ra the Rugged Man, Ra, everything that has R.A. at the beginning of it will come up before us. So one of the things that I'm trying to do to build our algorithm is by naming the song and naming the album a word that doesn't exist. At least we know if you search Intercorrupted, it's literally the only thing that comes up, which we've tested quite a bit to make sure. But if you go on Spotify and put on Intercorrupted, nothing else comes up. And as far as the actual meaning of the song, well, I spent the last 4 to 6 years just sort of, watching how social media and the United States in general has just become obviously way more divided, way more polarized, and there was something that I was sort of noticing on a psychological level that wasn't really being talked about a lot. And from my perspective, I think part of the problem is people's unwillingness or inability to see their own role in creating the division. So it's, we all know we're on one side or another to varying degrees, but we don't know that our choice to be on the side actually creates the other side. There's a causal effect between us saying, I am liberal, or I'm Democrat, or I'm Republican and I'm conservative, whatever it is, whatever choice we're making, we're actually facilitating the creation of the other side, our rival on the other side of the fence. And the energy that the energy that we're sort of like putting out about being correct or being on the right side of whatever argument we think we're on, that energy is literally creating our adversaries and creating the division. And it obviously gets sort of like blown up and magnified via social media and all of the algorithms that sort of isolate and target you to make sure you keep thinking that way. But the reason I use the word intercorrupted is because in order for us to evolve past this divisiveness, we sort of have to accept our own role. We have to accept our own flaws and our own corruption, our personal corruption, in order to even evolve to a point where we can address someone that we disagree with. We can't come at somebody with the idea that we're 100% right all the time. And if you do that, there's obviously no way to have a real conversation. And so being intercorrupted is sort of an admission of our connectedness. I keep saying, in all of these interviews, I keep repeating the last phrase of the chorus in that song. The last phrase in the chorus of that song is, it's too dark for the world to see the light between you and me. And that's literally how I see this whole situation. It's like it's become so dark that we don't even realize that we're connected, that we have this commonality of human existence and social existence and a family, and we want the same things, and we basically care about the same things, but we've been sort of soldierized in terms of our ideas to think, to dehumanize the people on the other side of the fence. And the only way I see that ending is if we start to accept our own flaws. And so in that way, we're intercorrupted.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And yeah, I think it's so important to acknowledge like our flaws and our traits and stuff like that. And I was gonna say, like, do you see, like, with the pandemic and COVID-19 and stuff like that, do you see kind of an acceleration of that process, or do you think the pendulum's gonna swing back to where we are more unified?
I mean, I think it's going to probably get worse before it gets better, but I do think it's going to get better. And the reason I think it's going to get better is I think that there's a growing amount of people who are fed up with the extremes, extremes on the right, extremes on the left, extremes of any kind. And I think that there's sort of a middle gray, common sense road that is going to eventually be able to articulate itself. Because right now the problem with the people in the middle is that they don't really articulate. They can't be heard over the noise of the crazy extremes. Whatever extreme you're on, they're making the most noise. Like when I talk to people, I live in Indiana, but I'm from New York City and I used to live in Los Angeles. But I live in Indiana right now, and I get to talk to people who are very conservative. And when you talk to them individually, what you realize is that they're not the people making all the noise on the right. They're not the people screaming their heads off about this or that. It's literally a small percentage of people that make all the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's on both sides of the fence. They're crazy liberals and they're crazy right-wingers, and everybody is sort of, if you have common sense and you're sort of centrist in your own mind, you're not out there yelling and screaming. So I think eventually what's going to happen is that there will be a voice. There will be a voice for common sense and things that seem to be, in a weird way, and I'm going to use a very strange example, but in a weird way, Joe Rogan sort of is. Because Rogan leans right on certain things and leans left on other things, and he's very vocal and very clear about how he expresses his personal sort of conviction, and obviously he has a loud voice. He reaches a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to become a little bit more prevalent than it is now, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think it's going to be, 10, 20, 30 years before social media have some sort of regulations put on it that, basically limit the way that it's allowed to sort of manipulate brainwaves. And at the moment, there's really no rules, and it just manipulates you all day long. It doesn't matter how smart you are, whatever it is, how educated you are literally being manipulated emotionally by every post you put up, every post you read, every ad, every news story. It's just all crazy.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And I was gonna say, like we're just being manipulated by advertising and stuff like that. And there were times I'd go shopping somewhere, and then all of a sudden, where I just shopped would appear on on an ad at Facebook, and it's just, to me, it's just crazy. And I was gonna say, do you think it plays? This is kind of a crazy question, but do you think it plays a role? We cover mental health. Do you think it plays a role on in increase in mental health concerns and stuff like that too?
Yeah, I think it's a huge, and I think that we're actually entering the part of it that it's going to get really bad. I think, when you think of Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington and Robin Williams, and you think of these guys having these charmed lives, and then they end up killing themselves. A lot of that, some of it is substance abuse, some of it is chemical, some of it is medications that are misprescribed, all of that stuff. But really, what I think is happening. Russell Brand talked about this quite a bit after Chester killed himself, about sort of the disenfranchisement of men in modern society, and the real sadness of social media is that, first of all, the perception that you have of other people, you're obviously only seeing what they're advertising. So you're seeing the best of whatever they got. You're seeing the hottest pictures of the hottest girls, the happiest pictures of the happiest family, and, it's all about how much they have and how good their life is, which, of course, in most cases is false. But then there's the other aspect of it. It's like you put your picture out. If you don't get as much love or likes and as much attention as someone else, you literally start to worry about your own value as a human being. And on top of that, there's an enormous amount of pressure to succeed and be noteworthy and be relevant. I have to say, even as a guy of my age who already was, I spent, 8 years touring and playing in a hard rock band and being on a major label and all of that stuff that you think is a lot of pressure. Honestly, I feel like right now, just stepping into the arena where I have to sort of be on a constant sort of monitoring stage of social media and trying to figure out what to post and how am I going to get people to engage and hear this song and be ready to buy this record. And there's so many elements that, in the old days, the record company just sort of took care of, and all you had to do was take some pictures, get on stage, and play some shows. Now it's a whole other you've got to figure out what part of your personality do people like, and does anybody want to see pictures of you, and and how do you talk, and make sure you're not offending anyone, and make sure you're not, and that you're not, but you have to be offensive just enough to make sure that you're interesting. Like it's a crazy amount of pressure, and I think that the human mind is just not designed for a combination of 24-hour information, news information of all kinds, constant anxiety-building things like posts and likes, and all of the aspects of, being assaulted by your phone 24 hours a day and having to see, not only the chaos in the world, but the chaos in your life all the time, never having a moment to escape it. That's going to lead to a lot of depression, a lot of people on Prozac and on medication, because how do you handle all of that? How do you handle, I'm a pretty confident dude. I have a nice family. I live a decent life. But, because of social media, I find myself struggling with, oh shit, I gained a little bit of weight, or I'm not really going to the gym enough, or I'm getting older and this hurts, and it's not just the normal pressure of like, oh, I'm getting older and my feet hurt. Like, that's not the pressure. There's like a weird pressure of like, oh my God, I've got to be able to look cool and be cool and not let any of this affect anything else. And I'm sort of one of the lucky ones. So it's sort of like I can't imagine regular people who are using the internet as a mirror for their lives. It's very, very, very difficult to navigate, and I understand it because I just see it on all levels. Plus, I happen to be friends with a lot of really successful people, way more successful than me. And I can tell you that, a lot of these guys get on the phone and you just feel like you're in a therapy session, because they're also going through it all, because they're under a microscope. And it's a seriously weird way of living that just sort of, it just sort of sprung on us in the last, 15 to 20 years, mostly the last 15 years. It just became this massive shift in the way that we deal with information. It's very, very, very scary, and I think it's going to be bad for a while.
Yeah, I can definitely see it being bad for a while, and I was going to say, like, people that are like bands and like recording artists and stuff like that. A lot of people don't realize all the behind the scenes stuff that they have to do and stuff. So, let's say when you let's say you struggle with that anxiety and stuff like that. Do you turn to like music or anything, or what do you turn to, or do you like turn to your family to kind of help get you through it, or how do you cope, so to speak?
I'd say the honest answer is my 5-year-old son sort of grounds me no matter
awesome.
What is going on. It doesn't matter what is going on. I see that kid and he sees me, and we haven't seen each other all day or whatever it is, and he just makes everything feel awesome. Like, I don't care how bad a mood I'm in, how messed up. If I see that kid, I'm smiling. And that's a huge thing. The other part of it for me is I've sort of been lucky, but part of it's been the way that I've constructed my career, so that I'm not always doing the same thing over and over again. I really like hard rock, but I also really like pop, and I really like EDM, and I really like rap. So I try and do as much of everything that I can, so that I don't feel in a prison or bogged down by any particular sort of label or style. I mean, I predominantly work with rock artists, but, even rock artists today are all sort of trying to pull from pop, pull from hip hop. So there's stuff that applies. But keeping my sanity a lot of the times is, exercise keeps me from feeling physically bad. But, I also play around with video games, and I like to sort of erase my brain at the end of a long day. Once I'm done with a work day, I'll go on and jump on my PlayStation and crush on some Call of Duty, or play, Or I have a lot of racing games. I love like Formula One and Gran Turismo or iRacing on my PC, stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome. And I was gonna say, like, you plan on releasing the new album March 19th of next year?
So yeah, so the pre-sale is going to start February 1st.
Okay.
And so people who buy the record during the pre-sale are actually going to get the record 2 weeks earlier. So they'll get it like the 12th or 13th. And then the album will drop on all the DSPs on March 19th.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was going to say, I know with like COVID-19, like pretty much like there's hardly any concerts. Like, are you guys going to do like live streams or anything like that? Or are you going to wait till this pandemic is over?
Yeah, at the moment we have a tentative plan, but it looks very, very likely because I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and there happens to be a place in Fort Wayne called Sweetwater Sound, and Sweetwater has they're a massive like Guitar Center like retailer. They're really, really, really successful, and they have a really fancy recording studio. In fact, they have 3, and they also have these massive sound stages. And since I moved here in February. I've gotten to know the guys there, and we're starting to work together on a regular basis, not only with Rob, but with several projects that I will be bringing in there. And we're very excited and hopefully going to be able to live stream a concert on March 19th, the day the record drops.
That's awesome. And I was going to say, what else would you like to add in regards to Raw or Intercorrupted or anything else that we haven't talked about? I know that we covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say a little bit about the record itself. It's
for sure, yeah.
Something, Intercorrupted is sort of the introduction to it. And in writing that song, I was trying to be mindful of where the band has come from and also where music is today. But I think the record itself is fairly adventurous and has some really, really, really good sort of takes on modern music, but sort of a raw take on the modern universe. Very happy with it. I really have never done a body of work where I felt sort of as motivated, and it's not even like 100% done yet. Like, it's just so sort of accurate to my vision. Like, I originally had a vision of what this record could be like, and being able to get the all original band together to make this really made it sound authentic to the band, and then also allowed me to make these songs sound newer without losing the flavor of what we had.
That sounds awesome. So how have you grown, like, basically from your very first record to now? Like basically take yourself from Do You Call My Name to now. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Well, I was a little bit older when I got signed to Universal Republic, and it was sort of weird, sort of mixture of thinking I knew everything and actually not knowing anything. And a lot of people may or may not know this, but the Raw records were all either co-produced by me or produced and mixed and engineered by me. So from one, I did with Paul Logus, and a lot of those songs I did, they were sort of co-produced, and we sort of did them together and all that stuff. But then Duality, Black Sun, Critical Mass, and in this record, Intercorrupted, they're all produced, engineered, and mixed by me by myself, which is sort of a crazy thing to do. It's sort of a Lenny Kravitz thing to do. But the reason I did it was because I was more interested in it sounding unique than it sounding good. Now, what I realized along the way is I did really want it to sound good too. So I needed to learn how to do that. So once I did Critical Mass in 2013, I realized certain things that I had become good at, but I'd also realized certain things that I wasn't incredible at. And so over that 7-year period, I got to work on those things, one of which being mixing and a little bit more about how to build out production. With Raw, there was always a little bit of a luxury because I was one of the better singers. So because I could sing good, some of the production and some of the mixes sometimes could be a little bit shitty, and it wouldn't matter too much because the vocals were always cool. But, as soon as I started working with other bands, I realized, whoa, that formula doesn't work if the singer's not incredible. So I had to become better at mixing, better at this. And of course, technology became better, so it's a little bit easier to make records that sound good. But, ultimately, from then till now, I think, the definition of what the band is far more clear to me. And also, I'm just sort of, I'm more fine-tuned as a producer and a writer and an engineer. I have a very, very clear picture of what I'm looking for every time we do something. So decisiveness, I think, on a different level. Because in the old days, I was very decisive with how I wrote the songs, but sometimes I didn't have the right priorities, and I would sort of mix and match things that I liked without necessarily caring whether or not it worked. Here, it's more about making everything work and sound cool and be new and be well mixed and be well engineered. So there's sort of, a growth curve in terms of just making everything sound good.
Oh, definitely. And I was gonna say, are you gonna? I know you just released Intercorrupted. Do you plan on releasing like another music video or anything like that, or is that all under wraps?
So what's going to happen is, as per the new rules of releasing music in 2020, you release a single to radio, you spend money and promote that, but then you have to release a song just an internet song, and then just a song for your fans, and then we're going to have one for the pre-sale, and then we'll probably have another video when the album drops. So I'm looking at it realistically. I'm probably going to put out another song, an internet-only sort of promote online song closer to Christmas. Then there'll be a song that will come when you get the pre-sale. When you buy the pre-sale, you will get another song as a free digital download. So in order to get it, you'll have to buy the pre-sale, but you'll get an additional song. So that's 3 total. And then by March 19th, we'll have the second video and single ready to go. Based on whether or not Intercorrupted is still climbing the charts, if they were lucky enough that it's doing well, then we will hold off until something, until it either falls off or starts to slow down, in which case we'll go to the next single. But if Intercorrupted is already on its way down by March 19th, then we'll go to the next single then.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like a lot of work. But, yeah, I was going to say...
It is no walk in the park, let me tell you. The record itself is an enormous amount of work. The promotion and marketing is expensive. It's a lot of stuff. But, what I didn't want to do this time is I didn't want to come out and put a record out and just sort of throw it out there. And I really wanted to make sure that we had marketing money to do it. We ended up signing with Wake Up Music Rocks, which is a label out of Florida, and they put up an enormous amount of money to make sure that we don't have to half-ass a lot of this. So that's sort of where we're at.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's awesome, and I cannot wait to hear the new record and stuff like that. And I'm hoping when this pandemic's over that I'll be at a Raw show, rocking out, so to speak. And anything else you would like to add, or?
No, I mean, if anybody wants to find us, we're easy to find on Facebook. We are Raw Official. Our website is rawband.net, and you can get to all our socials and stuff in there. In fact, you can join our mailing list there, which is something I recommend because we're going to be doing exclusive things just to our mailing list. And we also have our Instagram, which is Official Raw Band, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you'll find everything on the rawband.net.